Hey soldiers, the dollar is dying. And what I mean by that is it's going to lose its reserve currency status, global reserve currency status, sooner than later. And that's going to have a true and meaningful effect on your wallet, on your march to financial independence, on your ability to maintain financial independence. So if you don't want to be caught on the wrong side of the dollar losing reserve currency status, and you need to watch this video. Now, one of the things that is going to happen when the dollar loses its reserve currency status, it's going to mean that the United States is not able to afford to do a lot of the things that it's currently doing just by virtue of having the reserve currency. But guess what? They're going to try, and guess who they're going to get the money from? All right, I'll give you a hint. Find your nearest mirror. The United States government is planning on getting all of the money they need as the reserve currency status declines. They're going to get it from you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Now, if you don't know how to use the tax code to protect yourself, there are going to be some people out there who are shielded from this increase in taxation due to a loss of reserve currency status. And let me just stop right here and say that you're not going to wake up one day and the newspaper is going to say, United States has lost reserve currency status. It's not going to be a light switch. It's going to be a gradual progression. What will it look like? Well, right now, the United States dollar, the greenback, the Petro dollar, those are all names for the dollar, accounts for about 59% of global reserves. So other countries, when you add it all up, other countries have about 59% of their reserves in dollars. That actually has been slipping for years. That's actually down. And it's going to continue to decline as we spend more money. Okay, we always look at this, the debt clock. Okay, look how it's running up faster and faster and faster. So as we spend more money, our reserve currency status will continue to come into question. As we threaten other countries using the dollar, like what we've seen in Russia, we see other countries saying, you know what, hold on. We need to come up with some alternatives because we don't want the United States to be able to do this to us. All right, so we might have to sell off some of these dollars in exchange for gold or some other currencies. That's going to take that 59% and lower it. All right, so one of the benefits that we are afforded by having the reserve currency is the ability to have these protracted military engagements and to also be able to afford basically an empire of military activity around the world. As our status, as reserve currency status wanes, we will not be able to afford to do that, but we'll still want to. So again, you are going to be on the hook initially for that. Now, if you're sitting there saying, well, Tyrone, they haven't been talking about tax increases, so I don't know what you're talking about. Keep in mind, they don't have to right now. There are some tax benefits that are scheduled to expire on January 1st of 2026. Now, these were the so-called Trump tax cuts. But don't worry, if you didn't like those tax cuts, guess what? They're going to automatically sunset January 1st of 2026. You'll have the 15%, you'll have the 12% rate that it is now. It's going to go back up to 15%. You'll have the 22% rate, which was what it was lowered to in 2017. It's going to go back up to 25%. And you're going to have the 24% rate go up to 28%. Now, some people who are not soldiers of finance and do not consume our content, they're going to say, hey, Tyrone, come on, man, 24 to 28%, it's only 4%. we can handle that. Actually, no. You go from 24 to 28%, it's a 16% increase. Okay. When you go from 12 to 15%, it's a 25% increase. Okay, it's not 3%. So these are significant increases that are already baked in. They're already going to occur. Now, the dollar has been the reserve currency since the mid-1940s, roughly. And listen, reserve currencies, they don't last forever. That status is temporary. On average, a country can, on average, 95 years has been kind of the span. We're at 78 years now. And listen, even though 95 is the average, most of these countries that have had the reserve currency status since the mid-1400s have been around 80 years. You know that I've been saying that what we can expect is we're going to slip below that 59% of world reserve currencies, world reserves. We're going to slip below that 59%. We're going to be below it by the mid-2030s. I believe we're going to slip below 50% by the mid-2030s. Now, here's another thing. We talked about, the federal tax increases. But if the federal government cannot afford to heap largesse onto the states, and then the states can't afford to then send it to the municipalities, you are going to realize tax increases there as well. Because unlike the federal government, the states and the cities and counties, they're not able to just run a printing press and add more zeros to the ledger and forget about it like the federal government can. And the federal government is going to lose that ability also. Now, for additional proof of this, here is what it looked like when Great Britain had the reserve currency status and what their tax rate was, on average at that time, and what it is now. So you can see that there was an increase. There was an increase because they couldn't write those checks just based on having the reserve currency status. So demonstrably, statistically, mathematically, their taxes increased. And you also saw a decline in the British Empire. They have pretty much shrank back to the British Isles. They're not able to afford that expansive navy that once, helped them to further the capitalistic and, commercial aspirations that they had at one time. All right, so things changed. Now, in terms of the taxation aspect of it, you have to figure out how you are going to insulate yourself from the government come knocking at your door saying, hey, we need more taxes, buddy. We don't have that reserve currency status anymore. We need you to pay up. Now, look, you can't avoid all taxes. And that's what we're talking about doing. We're talking about legally avoiding taxation. We're not talking about evading taxation because that is illegal. But if the tax code gives us opportunities, we should observe those opportunities and we should avail ourselves of them. We have talked about this a lot, guys, but if you're new here, listen, if you've ever thought about starting a business, then that's a good way to realize a lot of tax advantages. Now, there was this thing back in the 90s where I'm going to start a business and I'm going to get some tax benefits. Now, I'm going to start a business to make money. I'm going to start a business to realize an unlimited income potential, an additional stream of income, service to clients, that sort of thing. The tax benefit part of it is a benefit, but it is a ancillary or fringe benefit that we certainly can take advantage of. But if you're thinking about starting a business, you don't start a business just for tax benefits. You start a business to, make things happen, to increase your earning potential, okay, to increase your income, to diversify your income. Those are the primary reasons to start a business. But if you do start a business, if you own a business, you need to speak with your CPA and make sure you are realizing all of the tax benefits that come along with that, all of the tax benefits that the government allows you to realize. Another thing is you need to look at those instruments that allow you to pay taxes now while we are presumably in a lower environment, we're definitely in a lower environment. We just went over how in 2026, the rates will be going up. And that's just the first step. That, again, is already baked into the cake. There's going to be legislation coming down the pike to raise taxes above that. And the reason why is because, hey, we keep racking up this enormous debt. We are spending money, like it is. The dollar's going out of style, and we're spending like it. So spend the money now and purchase the types of assets that will allow you not to have to pay taxes in the future. Now, I'm not saying you should have 100% of everything you own in that kind of vehicle, but you should definitely have some buckets of money that are insulated from future taxation. All right. Otherwise, let's say, you're in that 25% tax bracket in 2026 and you've got $1 million. Well, hey, you've really got 750 once the federal government finishes with you. So think about it like that. What is the ultimate ramification of taxes on your money as this equation changes? Now, some people are in denial. Some people just don't believe that we could lose the reserve currency status, which is insane to me. It's a special kind of arrogance bordering on ignorance to believe that can't happen to us, okay, when it's happened repeatedly, okay? Fiat currencies, especially, if you go all the way back to the Song Dynasty, when it was kind of the first paper money that came out, originated in China. Where is it now? Okay. And as we've seen, it does not take centuries for this to change. It does not take centuries for a country to lose reserve currency status. It usually happens in a matter of decades. So here's a chart detailing countries and international groups that have already switched from the US dollar to national currencies, to other currencies in trade. And we also have, it's fledgling right now, but we're also starting to see commodity-backed trade going on as opposed to using the dollar. Gold, oil, agricultural products, okay? So the questioning has started to begin. And Mohammed bin Salman, who is the really de facto leader of Saudi Arabia, crown prince, and one of the most prominent members of OPEC, floated the idea that they should start to denominate some oil sales in Chinese yuan. Just for him to make that suggestion is a hell of a chink in the dollar's status. So, what are some products that you can invest in? What are some assets that you can acquire that will insulate you? Well, the commodities are out there. The true commodities. Gary Gensler, the guy who heads up the SEC, he said a while back, Bitcoin's an asset. Not an asset, a commodity. Bitcoin's a commodity. Really? It doesn't meet the definition of commodity. These guys are into trying to change definitions. They're out there trying to change the definition of a recession. Don't let them fool you. Bitcoin ain't a commodity. Oil is, wheat is, corn is, gold is, silver is, okay? So those commodities should over time match inflation. They're things that are needed. And to the extent you can invest in those in a tax-advantaged manner, to speak with your CPA, then maybe that's something you could look into. Also, the Roth IRA. The Roth IRA lets you pay taxes now, and then as the money grows tax-free at a certain point, because it is a qualified account, at a certain point, you can access the money tax-free. Now, there is also the permanent, properly structured life insurance policy that you can access the money anytime you want. You don't have to wait to 59 and a half. You get to put more money into that vehicle. And of course, you put the money in and you pay taxes today. It grows tax-free. And at such point as you want to tap into it, you can do so. You do it right. You can do so tax-free by taking a loan from yourself, okay? And when it comes time to pass that money on to a future generation, that can happen tax-free also. All right, one last thing we're going to take a look at. I think you hear my cat there. One last thing we're going to take a look at is the history of the income tax here in America. We're really in an era of relatively moderate to low taxation on income. Okay, so we got no way to go but up, guys, especially when you look back at this chart and you see that the top rates were above 70% for a great deal of our history since we've had the income tax officially instituted in 1913. Been over 70% for a lot of that time, top rate. Now, okay, some will argue, well, how many people paid that? I don't know. The point I'm making is that the top rate was over 70%. Okay, so we can surmise that at this time, we didn't have the national debt and deficits that we're running today. We did not have the unfunded liabilities to the tune of well over $150 trillion, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid that we have today. So taxes are going up, guys, as the dollar declines, as it loses its heft and cachet as the reserve currency. You got to protect yourself. Otherwise, the IRS is going to take that money and they're going to leave you in a high inflationary, high tax environment, okay, with interest rates higher than they are now. Now, you turn around and you do the math and you figure out what your financial life will look like if you have the trifecta of higher interest rates, higher taxation, and higher inflation. It's going to be higher than 2%. Might come off of the levels it is now, but I don't think we're going to go back to 2%. So if that idea concerns you, you need to start doing your due diligence and you need to talk to somebody about the Roth IRA, an insurance policy. You can definitely call us and we can talk to you and teach you about that. There are no obligations. And we'd love to help you get on the road to financial independence and stay there. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon.